Hi everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I'd like to take you on a personal journey through the Laughter collection, a project I started a couple of months ago. This is a series of portraits I'm creating with soft pastel color pencils, where I try to capture the beauty of joy and laughter in people of all ages, shapes, and identities. Each portrait is drawn on brown ingres paper, and I work in a monotone style using mostly browns and whites. I chose to create this series in monotone because of my color deficiency. It feels more authentic to who I am. It's a way of showing the world through my eyes. And honestly, it also saves me from the constant struggle of choosing colors. Instead of worrying about matching palettes, I can focus fully on emotions, expressions, and the feeling I want to bring across. For this video, I'll be showing the very first 5 works from the collection. These are the drawings that set the foundation. They're not perfect, but each one helped me grow and shape the vision of what this collection could become. For pencils, I'm using soft pastel colored pencils from the brand Color. I really enjoy working with them because they're smooth to blend, soft but not too crumbly, and the pigments hold up well on toned paper. Since I work in monotone, you'll notice that my white and brown pencils are way shorter than the rest. They're the workhorses of this series, always in my hand. For paper, I use Fabriano Ingres in shades of brown. I really love this paper because it has just enough texture to hold pastel layers, but it's not too rough. It comes in 3 different brown tones, which is a huge plus. It means I can switch between shades depending on the mood, and it keeps me from getting stuck or bored working with the exact same background every time. Alright, let's begin with the first portrait. The first drawing I made was of a girl with bangs laughing openly. I love how her eyes are squinted, almost disappearing into the folds of her cheeks. It was actually also my first attempt at recording my art process, so I only managed to capture the second half of the drawing, starting when I applied the white highlights. I avoided using black here because I wanted to keep the piece soft and airy. Instead, I built depth by layering browns for shadows and lifting the features with carefully placed highlights. Looking back, I can see where I could have added sharper edges or been cleaner with the hair strands, but for a first portrait in the series, I think it was a meaningful start. It gave me a direction and also captured the energy I wanted this collection to have: warm, joyful, and alive. Now, the second portrait was a big step forward. This one is of a boy with the most incredible curly hair. I started by gently adding highlights to his cheeks to bring out the roundness and glow of his smile. Then I moved on to painting his mouth and teeth. I remember at that time I was rushing a little. I really wanted to finish the face quickly so I could dive into his curly hair. For this piece, I chose a lighter shade of brown paper. I felt that the slightly yellowish tone in the background enhanced his sunshine vibe, making him look as if he was glowing from within. The lighter paper also had a practical effect. It allowed the brown pastel to really stand out, so every stroke, every line popped more clearly and felt sharper and more defined. When I finally got to the hair, I spent a lot of time layering the curls, playing with the contrast between shadows and highlights. Looking back, I think I could have refined his teeth a bit more and maybe made some of the curls sharper. But overall, this portrait gave me a lot of confidence. It showed me how much the choice of paper could change the mood of a drawing, and it pushed me to explore more with light and shadow. For the third portrait, I decided to try something a little different. This time it was a sweet young girl, and I started by drafting her with a regular HB pencil before switching to pastels. Instead of blocking in highlights first, I began with shadows to shape her features gradually, then slowly introduced the whites to bring her expression to life. I also chose a different shade of brown paper this time because I wanted to see how each tone would affect the overall mood of the drawing. Doing this gave me a clearer idea of how the collection might look across different bases, and it also gave me more control over how the white highlights stood out. At this stage, I was starting to think more seriously about how I wanted the whole collection to grow and evolve. Looking back though, I do regret using an HB pencil for the draft. My intention was to create a cleaner, clearer guide for the features, but in the end, some of the darker pencil lines, especially around the eyes, were difficult to soften or cover with pastel. Still, that's part of the process. Every experiment teaches me something new, and trying out different methods helps me figure out which approaches work best for me moving forward. By the time I reached the fourth portrait, I felt ready to push myself further, so I decided to draw a baby. Babies have such soft, chubby features, round cheeks, smooth skin, and bright, innocent joy. Capturing that softness was a challenge, but I felt like I had more control over the paper and pencils by this point. I used delicate layering for the skin, keeping the transitions smooth and subtle, and really leaned into the highlights to give that glowing effect. This baby portrait became one of my favourites from the series because it contrasted so strongly with the others. After drawing older kids with more defined features, this soft, chubby baby felt refreshing, and it also inspired my decision for the fifth piece. For the fifth portrait, I wanted to balance things out by going to the other end of the spectrum, an elderly woman. This was a big challenge for me because I wanted to capture the fine lines, wrinkles, and textures of her face, while still keeping the warmth and joy of laughter. This portrait pushed me to be more patient, to slow down and pay attention to details without letting frustration take over, and surprisingly, it turned out to be fun. The wrinkles didn't make the portrait sad or harsh. Instead, they made it even more full of character. By the end, I could really feel my growth as an artist from the first piece to this one. So those are the first 5 portraits of my laughter collection. Looking back at them together, I see not just the faces, but also my own journey as an artist, figuring things out, learning from mistakes, and gaining confidence bit by bit. As I close this video, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey. I'll be sharing more from this collection in the future, and I've also picked up some new papers to experiment with, so I'm excited to see where that takes me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope these portraits brought a little joy to your day. If you enjoyed this, feel free to follow along for more, and I'll see you in the next video.